Why ain't y'all on?
Hello?
I'm the happy Mexican.
Eh?
Oh, there we go. Hey, folks, welcome to the Trailer Park Show. It's the happy couple or
sí,
happy
pues
group over
ya
here.
cerraron, era
Yeah,
las 8,
and no
cerran temprano.
AISD.
No,
At the
they,
last minute, they decided that they'd rather come on next week.
they feared the minorities. They feared the minorities. That's all it is. Let's be honest. Come on. And of course,
I'll let
and of course, we're going to find out what Gavino's going to be talking about with his.
Well, hold on. First off, thank you for coming back
Just give me
to
a
Richard
time.
Sparkler, president of the Great Panthers, and Gavino, Lulek guy, and of course just me and Francisco here. Well, I don't know what.
Hey.
The
Oh, you're me first in media, though, right?
Correct.
Republic Precinct Chair.
Yeah, Republic Precinct
All
Chair.
right. Democrat Precinct Chair 439, but I'm Lulak tonight, not no.
You got to
No,
switch
no,
hats.
no.
I'm a former school board member also.
All right, there you go. Former Del Valley School.
Anyway, the,
Just single dad, entrepreneur, and all that fun stuff, and a hardworking
made
dad.
up out the audience at the, Friday, they called
Doesn't
up
live in
me.
Austin. Just to remind you guys.
Friday, they seemed real interested, like they wanted to come on. I said, okay, I sent them the stuff. And then I didn't hear anything back from them Monday, so I sent them some more stuff. And I mentioned the co-hosts, Be First in Media, Great Panthers,
Uh-oh.
Lulak,
Oh,
President.
we got a
Put me on
problem.
the table or what?
Houston, we may have a problem here.
What's the matter?
Get this up where people can hear you.
I figured they can hear him. I mean, he's got that.
Yeah,
he's got that
usually
booming
you
voice.
want
So
me
you
to
gotta
shut
have
up.
a little bit on there.
Oh, there you go.
Because
Because remember, it's the whole.
I
Oh,
touched
shit.
him.
And about,
I got the cooties.
Beware the sweaty balls
I'm
that you
trying to
get.
explain what's going on
I
here.
have my cootie shot.
I got your cootie shot. Better not say that. You know what it is. That was that. Oh,
Okay, so you-
today
so you
they
told
called
them-
about 3:30, 4 o'clock, and she said, well, it's the Alex Sanchez and his media group, about 3 or 4 other people. I don't have my computer here. So one of the girls called me up and she said, well, we really don't have anybody to come down there tonight. Because, their board meeting starts at 6 o'clock, right?
That's right, they have a school board meeting tonight. That's right.
But she said maybe next week because it's 2 weeks before their back to school thing. The big thing we wanted to talk about here and promote.
Back to school bash.
I told them we won't get political. We won't ask no hardball questions or even softball questions. We just go to back.
Well,
to
no,
school
we'd have to
stuff.
give them softball questions.
Well,
We'd have to
I-
laud
I-
it.
I
Okay,
forgot-
we're gonna do what we do
Hey,
what we do for the
but-
president. We're gonna go here.
And
Okay, Acevedo. Here.
And maybe next week is a better week, because I forgot about the school board meeting. I completely
Well,
forgot.
next week I was wanting to do about the lawsuit thing, but
Which lawsuit? There's so many.
Which lawsuit?
Well,
Yeah, there's so many.
never mind. Which
lawsuit you wanna cover next week?
You wanna talk about the lawsuit now? There's
the
Rosemary.
after-school bash is on August the 24th.
So she said we could do it next week.
August the 24th, so that gives us more time, and that'll give us,
Well, I told her this time to let me know for sure.
Yeah.
Before I make more rearrangements for next week.
or if not, if she can just email you their information, their flyers, and we can talk about it.
Well, we could Skype
Because
them on
it's,
maybe or something.
because they also provide transportation from different schools. That's the important part that I wanted to let the people know out in the community, the parents, that AISD provides free bus rides from different schools. Dove Springs, for
To go
example.
to their back to
to
school
go
bash?
to the back to school bash, and they receive
You got free food and beer there or what?
no, they receive free backpack, free school supply items, and they always have a great turnout. And this is one of the projects that Dr. Christopherson,
Is this the one that's sponsored by HEB?
HEB, and numerous other the sheriff's
This
department,
also the,
APD, the schools, and
You know, when
But anyway.
when I first moved here to Austin last, a year and a half ago,
I mean,
Pokey or Quicker? Oh,
Quick,
okay.
go
When I
ahead.
first moved over here, I was telling you where I used to live before, and you'd see those banners just saying, free school supplies right at the time of the year. Never seen it anywhere else. All the other cities I went to that I lived at, never saw it except for here.
Right.
That was kind of interesting.
free school
well, Austin,
supplies.
Austin's Austin. Can I mention the immigration workshop, and then we move on?
Yeah, hold on, I got some other things to mention too,
Okay.
but first, I don't know, I don't think she'll pull it up, but the Travis County voter registrars people said that we should all go to all these different events. What is that?
That's an email, sir.
That's Cisco.
That's
That's from my party.
That's your people.
That's my people put this flyer out about things coming up. This is Monday, August.
It's over. It's the next one.
Oh yeah, let's go see Senator Cruz tomorrow after I told him after we get out of your radiation treatment, maybe you'll take me by there.
What's he gonna do?
Well, Battleground, Texas, and some of the Democrats are down there protesting, so we're gonna go down there and counter-protest.
Where's he gonna be at?
3 something East 8th Street. I got it written down here.
But what is he here for?
It's,
It's
yeah,
our
it's gonna be at his
senator's
main
office.
office.
Senator Cruz's office.
Oh, so he's gonna come to his office?
I don't know if he'll be at his office or not, but.
Oh, is this just a staged protest in
Yeah,
front of
this
his
is
office?
the Barack Obama people that come to Texas to try to turn it blue will be there,
Okay.
complaining about whatever it is they complain about. Oh, wait, there's the one, can you expand that? Because this is the important one here.
That's tomorrow.
No,
I
this
mean,
is
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
at 6:30 p.m. Millennium Youth, right down the road here.
Millennium.
This is something we need to be at. Because
Millennium.
this is an important stuff there.
This is one of numerous that they have already scheduled out in the community.
Yeah.
I was going to email you the whole list of the numerous ones they're going to have out the community, but since I don't have one.
Well, there should
Access
be a
to
link
the-
on there that would send us to it, but they, yeah, this is really important stuff right there. Well, I don't know where she's going with that one. Oh, yeah, that's all I wanted to see that. The C-scope one it's already old. And the Senator Cruz thing, I guess that was kind of partisan from this way because we're gonna go out there and the Battleground Texas people be out there about.
Well, we
climate
just need to
change.
remind Senator Cruz that his daddy's also an immigrant.
Oh, I go
So
over
is
the
he.
immigrant
Yeah,
stuff.
that's what I'm
So is he?
saying.
He was born in Canada.
Yeah.
So he could never be president.
Well,
That's what I've been made to understand.
that's the way it's supposed to happen. However, I think there were some laws that were put in place to go ahead and kind of counter that.
To change the law so.
Well, no, to kind of based on the maternal lineage that they're
Mom
allowed
was
to.
born here.
Well, you got Mitt Romney's dad, who I think was born in Mexico. If I remember correctly, he was born in Mexico.
He lived in Mexico.
You have John McCain.
He was born in.
Because what? Oh, okay, yeah, it says.
Like us on
upcoming
Facebook.
events. Well, you need to enlarge it or something, I guess. I don't know.
It says to like us on Facebook. Well, whoever they are.
Yeah, that's all the different ones. See the one on the 14th right there? Well,
Please read your new text.
at least it's not Jesse calling. It says, you know what it says. Watching y'all, enjoying it so far. Oh, boy, thank you.
Oh, and I found another viewer out there, a loyal, dedicated viewer. Sunday after Mass, we go to coffee at the parish hall, and hey, we watch that Monday program. As we're scrolling around, and that's where we get our local news. So hey, we're breaking.
Well, in that case, put
We're
the thing
break-
up about.
We're breaking that 10. We're going to that double figure now in audience.
We got 10 people?
We
10
got
people
10
watching us.
people now.
All right.
Yeah, we broke that double figure.
The thing at the Millennium Youth Center down here on Wednesday is pretty important. That's really
Why?
because it's redistricting. We need to get your voice in on it. I know you want your voice in on it, so go ahead. You tell us what you think
I don't
about
even
this.
live in the city.
What day is that again?
Wednesday.
Wednesday?
Wednesday,
6:30.
6:30.
I live in
Millennium Youth
I
Center.
live in the area where they never hear our screams.
ETJ.
I know where that is. I used to haul loads
Well,
out there a lot.
it's the 10-1. It's commission
Yes, sir.
seeks input on single-member council districts. Focus is on Travis County Commissioners Precinct 1. And it's from Wednesday, August 14th from 6:30 p.m. at the Millennium Youth Entertainment Complex, 1156 Hargrave Street. And essentially, basically what they're saying is the Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission seeks public input on Austin's 10 City Council geographic district before it begins to draw maps for these districts. A series of meetings will begin this month and continue into November. The ICRC will conduct 3 meetings in each Travis County Commissioner's precinct. Each of the meetings will focus on the geographic area within the city limits of that precinct. Austin residents living in the precinct are especially encouraged to attend, which means that I'm renting a house somewhere along Cesar Chavez so that I can go ahead and, my daughter will keep the house in Mena. I'll sign it off on her.
She like that.
Oh yeah, she'll love it because then I won't be there.
Party time.
Exactly. And then that way I can run there and be able to go and say, this is what needs to be done.
Well,
I hope that if you get elected, you'll ask some serious questions about what money is and is not being used here in office.
Oh yeah.
that you'll actually say something about things like the Formula One, and how much money that's actually costing the city rather than how much money it's making the city, because we still haven't gotten a real answer on what that thing actually generated. No one's actually asked that question yet. It just happened and
Well, hold on,
it
I'm
went
getting
away.
electric thing.
Well, but
Well,
It is bringing in high-tech,
you were on the school board when they came and approached that community. What were they offering? What
Well,
was they
first of all,
promising?
they approached the community after the fact.
Right.
They were already in the process of buying land, et cetera, before they ever said anything to the school board. In fact, they were a year long before they even said anything to the school board. And I was asking questions as part of the coalition that was out there. The school board didn't ask anything. So it was real difficult trying to get some answers, and we never actually did. But
Del Valley School Board.
Right. And I don't know if anybody's aware that the tax rate on that thing came in at about $300 million, a little less than $300 million, to about $290. We were supposed to see as a school district about $4.4 million out of it, and they protested immediately the amount of money they were being taxed. So here it is, we're giving this whole process $25 million, and yet it's supposed to generate X amount of dollars for the other, so like $54 million additional, blah, blah, blah. But we've actually never seen a breakdown of how much money it's actually making as opposed to how much money we've put into that whole process. So I think the city needs to actually,
That's the
I would think
property
somebody
tax,
has to-
right?
That's the taxes on the property.
That's a lot of damn property tax. How big is that place?
Well,
It's big.
it's huge, but remember they spent $300 million improving the land out there.
You would think,
So I would think that at least
$2
whatever
million
improvements
a
you
year
put in,
property tax would be about right.
yeah, but we're giving them $25 million to run that race every year. So that's your tax dollars.
Well, it's supposed to be replaced by all the hotel tax and all the money
Okay,
they spend in
so
town.
at what point in time do we actually see a breakdown
I understand what you're saying.
on
When
how
does-
much
when
money
does
it's
it become
making?
profit making.
Because my understanding is a whole lot of restaurants downtown lost money last year doing the thing because nobody went there.
Because it was all away from the city.
Right.
Plus the fact that there's hotels right now that have not even paid their taxes in the past 10 years. I mean, you got some of the big hotels over here that owe millions of dollars, and what is the city doing? Nothing.
Wow.
You got Leffingwell over here, and
You let us throw a few dollars in tax to see what happens.
Oh yeah,
exactly. My house would be gone.
That's
Yeah.
it.
My house would be gone. And then you got Leffingwell, who's been quoted as saying that the city's making money, okay, because of the investments that they're doing.
Right.
Well, and like you said, there's no numbers.
You're
We
not
don't
seeing
see
it,
it. He's never been able to answer how much it is. What's the return on the investment?
No
We're
one,
investing.
and no one follows up with the question. So at some point in time, somebody's got to say, we're supposed to be seeing a bunch of money. We ain't seeing a whole bunch of money.
We were supposed to be going to go ahead and talk
Talk
about some
education.
education stuff, but this is getting interesting anyway.
Well, let me throw in here my summit here. Not my summit, but
Throw it in there.
There I call
East
it.
Austin Summer Speaker Series at Southwest Keys will happen on Wednesday, August the
You ever been out there?
15th.
Hold on. You ever been out there? Where's this girl? You've been
Where?
out there, right? Southwest Key?
It's at 6002 Jane Lane.
It's alternative school, I guess you could say.
It's a charter school.
Charter school.
And
It's alternative.
they're having a
Way
comprehensive
out here.
immigration reform. The time is now. The purpose of this session is to inform the community about what is comprehensive immigration reform and the do's and don'ts of the process, what to expect, and how individuals can help and get involved and advocate for the bill of passing comprehensive immigration reform. And again, it's Wednesday at 602 Jane Lane
I'd like
from
to ask them
6:30
about
to
this.
8 p.m. And there's a panel of individuals that will be taking questions and be talking about the subject.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
You know, recently here, somebody's schooling the Mexicans, and they're pouring across the border in California, and they say they want asylum because they're scared to get killed in the dope war. There's so many of them, they even renting them $100 a night motel rooms in San Diego.
That's happening at every border. That's happening at every single border.
it
city.
every
There's-
single
oh,
border?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, I know in Brownsville, they've had a lot of it.
In El Paso, the big ones are the reporters.
They
that
say
are- that are being-
90% of them never show up. Well, you know what they do there? They give them a court date, and they never show up. And so, what are we going to do with these people? A warrant issued for them. If they pick them up, they can't ask them to
Legalize
leave.
drugs.
Legalize drugs.
Legalize drugs.
Now, what did
What's
you
that gonna
say?
solve?
What did you
Tax.
say they were doing?
You
We
you
keep
come
talking about
to
the drug
America-
war, then legalize drugs, then you don't have a war anymore.
Well, they're criminal activity. They'll find something.
We legalize the alcohol.
Yeah, and
Seemed
then
to-
what they
seemed
do,
to work out
they
pretty
went to
good.
kidnap and extortion.
All
And
all
right,
we have
first,
is DAs getting drunk.
And the
We
way
have to worry
things are
about getting high.
going, by the time we know it, they may legalize Mary Jane.
Yeah, we already got it grown in
Well,
Colorado,
it's being
Oregon,
decriminalized.
California.
Yeah, it's decriminalized to the point where it's okay.
Yeah.
If you come to America and you say, I'm seeking asylum, then we have to, by law, give you an asylum hearing, which usually they get so swamped, they just give you a date and say, show up there and turn your ass loose.
Well, you know why they're putting them in hotels, right?
Because they ain't got no room anywhere
All
else.
the detention. You're right. All the detention centers are all
Already packed,
packed
overflowing.
up and overfilled.
Sounds like it's good for the economy. Anyway,
Yeah, that's all your immigration thing. I don't know if you heard about all that.
It provides jobs.
yeah.
It's
what?
just like the
For the
jail.
hotel rooms? or-
It's just like the jail system.
No, we're going back to his, how much money did this go?
No,
You
but
paying
see,
$100 a night.
It's
We're
just like the
taxpayers.
jail system. If you stop putting people in jail, you're gonna have empty jails. You have no cooks, no guards. Have to reduce the budget, and
So we're
that's
going to put them in the
go to
hotel.
grain.
So that means we're going to hire more maids, more front desk people to go ahead and take care of that. And then if they have concierge services, then of course they have room service, and instead of going to McDonald's
Holy
and
cow,
get
I'm
the
gonna go down
get
there
the
and
Happy
tell
Meal.
them I'm seeking asylum.
It is. And it's absolutely. I hate to say this.
Well, should we build more hotels or more prisons? Which one?
should build neither. We should build neither. We already got plenty of hotels.
We got plenty of prisons too.
Building more hotels here.
Yeah, we already got this
That's
this
because
high
that's
dollar
because
racetrack.
all the oddballs from California are moving over here. That's the reason why.
That's what we need, huh? I had to throw that in.
So how's that tied into
today.
education that we were going to beat up on today?
Yeah, we were gonna beat up on the dead horse education. C-scope, was that it?
No, it wasn't C-scope. It was actually the accountability process that came out with the Texas Education Agency last week. They reported how many schools met the standard.
Here in Austin.
And that, over at the state
Overall.
level, also the graduation rate. And Mike Williams came out and announced that last year had the highest all-time graduation rate of ever. It was at 87.7%. Now, to believe that, understand that I haven't been a school board member and I've done some research just recently. We've got to start asking ourselves how they look at what that graduation rate actually is and how they got to it.
I can't read all that real well right up there. Is that some info on the screen?
And
Yeah.
I think the reality is we need to start asking real questions of all our school districts, because I think at the end of the day, if we don't ask the right question, we don't get the right answer. I asked how many kids in Del Valley started the 9th grade 4 years ago. It was 759 kids. I asked how many kids graduated this year. It was 398 kids. And yet I'm waiting for them to tell me that they graduated in the 90%. Because what they're actually looking at is how many kids start the 12th grade, how many finish the 12th grade, along with all the other alternatives they also have set up. And this is not the only school district that does that. There are several school districts in this state that do the exact same things. We are not at 98% graduation rate. We are not at almost 90% graduation rate in this state. So we're doing ourselves a disservice by trying to make ourselves look good rather than doing the good work. The reality is, if we're not going to deal in realities, then we're still going to have a massive amount of kids who don't
Go down there,
graduate.
Mo.
What's they doing?
She's scrolling too fast for me. And I can't read to begin with.
But if we get realistic and our graduation rates more along the lines of 60%,
Yeah.
then we can start getting real about what we have to do. But if we're just going to keep saying and pat ourselves on the back to the point of almost breaking our own arms, and here's the real question you have to ask. They didn't give the school districts all the money they were supposed to have for 2 years. At least the money they said they were promised based on how many kids they had. But yet, we got a higher graduation rate. So what you're saying is, I've taken money from you, and you still performed even better. There's something wrong with this equation. There's something wrong with the conversation that we're not having. The fact that we're not asking questions. And we as taxpayers, we as stakeholders, we as parents, we as a community need to start asking the questions of the school board, so they start asking questions of the people who are running these systems and ask, how did you get to those numbers? How is it that my kids are still suffering, not graduating, not getting the best out of the education system they should be? If we don't ask ourselves the real questions, do we really believe that we're giving our kids a world-class, world-competitive education right now? And that doesn't matter. I'm not talking about public or charter schools. I'm talking about, do we believe that Texas is giving kids a world-class, world-competitive education? And if the answer is yes, then we got no conversation. But if the answer is no, then we got a whole lot of things we need to be talking about and a whole lot of things we need to be doing.
I know you got something to throw in there
What?
on education.
Yeah, I'm just looking at what we've done to kids. I mean, I know there's school districts out there that have a lot of money that they put behind the kids, but at the end of the day, do they give them everything they need? We've got people who don't know how to use IT. They've got cell phones, they've got laptops, they've got tablets, but they don't even know how to use the technology available. I recently went to a seminar where a guy was saying, look up something in Iran. Look up something in China, not here. Don't Google it from here. Google it from China. Look at do you know those codes to be able to look at it from a Chinese standpoint? They know the code here. Do you know the code there? Because they're
I
getting
didn't even
different
know you
information.
needed one.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you know what's coming out of China? What are they reporting over there? See, we keep getting our only information we get is from here, but the rest of the world's
now,
getting
hold
information.
on now. I subscribe to China News.
Do you?
It's the English version.
Ah,
Well, you know, I can't read Chinese.
it's written in Chinese. It's written in Chinese and then translated.
I guess it's a new China news agency or whatever it's called.
Okay, who writes that?
It's Shanghai. English version.
Okay,
It's like the Business Journal or whatever.
okay.
Talk about Latin American studies.
I asked the question. The gentleman asked the question at the time.
It is.
He held his hand up and said, "How many of you have iTunes University on your phone?" And out of the 4,000 people in that room, I was the only one who raised his hand. I have iTunes University on my phone because it's a continuous output of educational material worldwide. And they put a brand new course on about 3 months ago. 2,500 hits the very first day they put it on. None of them from America. All of them from China.
Well, you know that the future of education is going internet, and now you can get your graduate and go to kindergarten and everything on the internet.
I saw that too.
Been seeing these advertisements, so we may be getting in the future to where we're teaching and our kids are learning without no schools anymore. The need of schools.
I asked years ago about you can put the UT library on your phone.
And you can even get a
iTunes has UT Library on there, by the way.
the UT extension
You can do what?
program.
UT Library is on iTunes University.
It
It's
is.
already there, yes. Already there.
And see, UT has an extensive extension program also through the web where you can also get your degree. So,
I see those commercials all the time.
Well,
Go to-
I think as far as technology is concerned, that's fine, but you still need to have the human interaction to be able to be a human.
Right. That and you need to have, or at least whatever education systems out there, be able to say, hey, by the way, this isn't the only game in town. There's more information out there, like you were saying.
Right.
Instead of, if you want to go to China's Google or wherever is Google or whatever is search engines, they should be able to at least tell us, hey, go, try it over there.
The way that's being done does not encourage a young person to unlock their mind.
Right.
What you're doing then is just building on information, which is just information. I go back to what Einstein said. You have to realize that having an imagination is more important than knowledge. You have to create something. You have to go out and search new knowledge. You have to search new things. And what happens in our school system right now is we continue with the rote process, which is just teaching a test. And in doing so, we limit the child's imagination. Mm-hmm. So you wonder why a kid who's in a classroom bouncing off the walls and needs to be drugged, he needs to be drugged because he's bored to tears because if
You're not letting him think.
exactly, they've stopped them from critically thinking.
well, you're kind of, it's basically they're wanting to have you learn memory.
How do you
And
teach to think? They
I
don't
know,
do that anymore?
that's what I'm saying. But the test, that's basically what you're looking at. You're studying memories because when you go to the test, the idea is to remember what the answer or what the project or whatever it was.
Yeah, but what about the step further than that? It's kind of like the question they ask those kids on television: think of the largest number you can think of, and the kid says infinity. Another kid says, well, infinity plus one. Well, we're looking for infinity plus infinity. Actually, what about infinity times infinity?
Yeah.
And when I asked a kid, I said, do you know how many stars there are in the universe? And do you know there may be other universes? They look at you all crazy. I said, do you know what a Google is? A Google is not just something that you do on a computer. It's actually a number.
That's the reaction when I get when I say, I know some Republicans, they say, what?
Yeah, I noticed that on your picture. You got a lot of hell sometimes.
What?
I know
You got
Republicans. I know Republicans too. I mean, again,
Yeah, he's pictured with
What I-
most senators, huh?
what I find is I find us being lost in that conversation also because that's something we don't teach. See, again, we just gravitate to something because that's what our parents did.
Where's your sister-in-law? Isn't she a
She's
teacher?
in Colorado.
Oh, okay.
We don't actually teach our kids.
I know she's missing all the education shows, and she's big on the.
I do democratic things and so forth and so on, but the reality is I'm an independent-minded thinker. And I want people to understand if we start doing that, then we wouldn't be locked in a two-party system, which keeps us at odds. And that's one of the things we don't do. We start teaching civics.
What do you think about a three-party system?
I think about how about an 18-party system? How about a
Uh, two-party
The thing is,
system.
the thing is that
keeps
there
us-
already is. There's already multi-level parties. The problem that comes up is that it's all about the bottom line. Who has the money, to go ahead and fund those
no, you
parties?
said almost half of it because there is one Democrat out there I will vote for all the time.
Gavino.
No, he's not right. The sheriff. I like our sheriff.
But here's,
okay.
I go back to this though. If we teach civics in a classroom, civics allows us the opportunity to actually think about both history and how to remember how things are affecting you now from an
How
informational
that.
standpoint.
How it's applicable.
But we don't look at history because we don't want people to understand how civics works. We don't understand how history works, how it's working on us. And we've locked ourselves into, we could go back and say, well, Lincoln freed the slaves and he was Republican. Democrats started the KKK. Well, if you knew that, would you then gravitate to that party because of that? Or did you understand that there was a transformation in how things happened? Or are you still looking at the fact that right now it's a false dichotomy? Right now, the Republicans and Democrats have us both locked down. They're both oppressive, and we don't talk about how they're oppressing us. Right now, we're talking about FISA courts and TSA and all these other things. No one understands historically that has always happened.
Well, if we're going to go into politics, I think that my party oppresses you less than
But
the other party.
it is not. It's not a political thing. I'm saying it's a matter of
I
education.
understand.
Education, not teaching, not allowing our kids to think about how we got here.
I could give you an example of the education thing because I've seen the last one, but the China thing, I went to the border a lot, and so I started studying that
China
and
border?
how that links. What happens on the border affects Chicago and Mexico City. Then I simply expanded. It's all interconnected. My Latin American studies led me to Africa and China, of all places. How did this happen?
Right. Led you.
It led me to.
Right.
Well,
That's
And
how it
I
works.
can't explain that process of leading Africa to mostly criminal activity.
Right.
But
Well-
China is the investments coming in, and that affects the border, which affects Chicago, Mexico City, all the way to Beijing and Shanghai.
Well, China's the biggest importer from
Mexico?
Mexico. And today in the schools, they're encouraging their youth not to learn English, but to learn Chinese.
Chinese in Mexico.
You know,
And the
so
Chinese, absolutely.
someone knows what's going on.
Well, now, that's not
internationally.
exactly, that's right, but they're not saying don't learn English either.
No, I know that,
Because
but
America is still their big neighbor that does the most business with Mexico, but Mexico and China have very much increased their
and you know that's why when you go
diplomatic
to
relations. I don't know what you call
when you
it.
go to Walmart, what does it say? Made in China, made in China.
You used
made
to say
in
made in
China.
Mexico.
Say made in Mexico.
Well, here's something to consider, and I do it with my kids all the time when I'm running my motivational program. There's a video called Shift Happens. Shift Happens, and it's
This ain't that story of stuff type thing, is
no
it?
shift. The shift happens, and it speaks to the fact that in 1900 it went down. The most powerful country in the world, the most educated country in the world. It goes the most powerful military, and all these, and it goes. And what country was that in 1900? It was
Argentina?
It was Great Britain.
Great Britain and Argentina was
So
still
you
very
realize
powerful back then.
in 1900, Great Britain had, the greatest empire, the greatest military, the greatest education, had all these things. Here we are 100 years later. Do we say Great Britain is any of those things? No.
No.
So here we are, the United States in 2000, saying the exact same thing about who we were. And we've already fallen way afar from that with respect to education, with respect to quality of living, and we're only 13 years into this century. Where are we going to be in 2100?
My argument for that is we don't make cars, no, but the Japs or the Germans make the best camera. If you want to put that camera on Mars, how do you do that? America still leads the way in many fields, including aerospace.
I didn't say they don't. What I'm saying is,
Well, I
we're
know what
only
it-
13 years into it.
I know what you're
How
saying.
long does a decline take?
Well, I don't want to decline. I'm saying let's advance into these things, but yeah, you're right. If we don't do the education, we
There
don't
it
even
is.
fly ourselves
and
into
the important
space
part,
anymore.
and the important part
And
that
that's the
comes out-
point.
yeah, and the important part that comes out on that, when it comes to advancing or the continual advancement of the United States, it has to be done here.
It has to be
It has to
done
be
by
done with-
giving
it has to be done-
Americans opportunity to open their minds and think.
They have to have. We have to give. Well, you're right. It has to be the opportunity, but we have to give the kids a chance to go ahead and start thinking
Stretch.
outside of what they're normally thinking.
Outside their box.
Exactly, so that they can go ahead and say, okay, this is what they're teaching me, but if I learn this a little bit, but I come over here, I'm going to learn this, or I'm going to come over here and learn this, and then that way they expand their horizons and be able to become the innovators that we need now. Instead of having someone have a business say, hey, you know, that guy from Mexico or that guy from that Asian or whatever country, we want them over here so that they can be the innovators. No,
Right.
It's got to be done
Exactly.
here. It's
Yeah,
got to
we
be
need
my
to-
kid. It's
yeah.
got to be your kid. It's got to be your
That's what
grandkids.
Visa
However
called
the kids-
We
That's
lock
what
away
Visa-
our talent. We lock away our talent in this country and then ship other talent into the country. If you want to see talented people, go out to any jail, go to any prison, and see what these guys have created from nothing in a prison. The fact that a guy can come up with toilet wine, the fact that they can make a shiv out of anything,
Remember?
the fact that you got people who can write stuff, they're the most ingenious people you ever want to see. Well, if you're locking away this talent, because that was the kid who was in your classroom bouncing off the wall. And by the way, you get out of my classroom because I can't teach you. Well, guess what? Maybe the problem is not the kid. Because how many of those kids have you thrown out of your classroom? How many times have you asked yourself, why is it I can't seem to get through to this kid here? And because I do the same thing with my kids. When do you step above and beyond the norm to make yourself better? And I ask my kids at the end of the year, I need you to evaluate me. Because I want to be the best person I can be, and I can't do that unless you tell me what my shortcomings are. And I'm not going to ever be objective about me. And I hope that you can just tell me, beat me up if you have to. But even with the kid who doesn't like you, you can still find out that there may be something that you can improve yourself on yourself with. And we don't do that. Teachers are never going to let a child come back and write an evaluation on them. But you know what? If that was the case, a child will probably tell you, you suck.
Oh, yeah.
If you had done this, I would have probably learned something. But instead, you tried to force feed me, and I didn't want to eat it. And that's a problem. How do we get these kids, how do we make education understand that we got to get past the ego, which is what oftentimes I see what's going on here. It's an ego process rather than saying, I want to be the best I can be, and I'm not there yet.
You know how you fix that, or how you start it? You start it with us. Real simple. It's real simple because I told you guys before. I've shared the story with you guys when my daughter was going to McAllen. Okay, which as you guys are aware, the mindset. I don't want to. It's not the geographics, but it's the mindset of the school there, which from what I've seen is like a very liberal type mindset.
They're a weird kind of Democrat down there.
Well, the thing was is that when I would pick her up from school, the first thing we do is that we go through every single class that she went through as we're driving home. And we'd say, okay, what were your classes today? And then I try to remember what her classes were. And then we say, okay, what did you learn? And then she'd tell me exactly what was going on. If there was something that was kind of off, then we talk about that. Or if there was something that was out of the ordinary for her, that what she wasn't comfortable with, then we sit down and we talk about it. And we say, okay, what do you think was wrong with this? And we've talked about that, I think before, when it came to some of the stuff that was taught in child development. And in fact, when major events occurred, instead of me having to rely on the teachers to go ahead and tell them, hey, by the way, what you need to talk about, we brought it up, and then when I pick her up, I'd say, did you guys talk about this?
It sounds like you're talking about simple parental involvement, which
It
is
is.
what-
It is.
That's part of the process.
Exactly.
I
what
think it's
you're
part of the
saying.
process.
I hear a lot of people talking
It
about the
is.
discipline as a problem in school.
In my opinion, it's the biggest part. I mean,
I don't necessarily think that's so, if you really want to know, because parents have not always been involved in the education of the children. That's a historical lie. It just is. In fact, if you go back and look at what our parents used to do, they used to tell us to go in and finish your homework, and that was the end of the conversation. I mean, the reality is that's the way it's
And you
always
better do it
been.
too.
And because you got to realize, my grandfather who came up and had a third grade education and dropped out. My father finished high school, but that was the end of the conversation.
But they're
That-
smart people.
Yeah, but
Where
they were
they
smart
learn?
because they could. My grandfather could
think.
think his way through something. He could still, I go back to the fact that we talked about earlier. The fact is, we had people who learned how to read, and there was no reading back then. There were people who learned how to read, and they were slaves. They didn't have any money, and there was no parental involvement. People learned how to do things. The reality is, you have to unleash the mind. You have to be able to say, I look at some of the stuff that's on here. It's about making themselves look good. Well, we had the highest number of this, and we had these many students get over, and I said, but is this really about achievement of the child? Or
It's
is
all,
it
it's,
making
all,
it-
it's all about business.
it's business.
It's all about business. How much money can we get? How much money should we shoot for? You know, you have the way our society, education society, has been set up is that if you go through a 4-year institution, government institution, that you're looked upon as an educated person.
Right.
That is so misleading.
Right.
You know, just because you're able to maneuver and have funds to go through a 4-year institution, UT or whatnot, necessarily doesn't mean that you're a bright individual in real life. Because I've known people that have all kinds of degrees and whatnot, and I think one of them sits on the AISD school board. I ain't gonna mention no names, you know, but they lack common sense, they lack respect, they lack.
It's the altruistic attitude because they think that they're educated.
And
problem.
then they
Yeah,
have.
talk like that because he knows why they won't come on the show. Then.
And then they
why we can't have
themselves
nice
have the
things here.
audacity to say, we have a discipline problem in our classroom. No, we have a discipline problem at the school board. That's where the problem is. It's not in
I
the
like
classroom,
that.
you know.
You agree with that?
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying that school board. I'm just saying as a whole, I
In
think
general.
we lack discipline at the elected official position because remember, you got to ask some questions. You just can't sit there and rubber stamp whatever staff walks in the door and gives you. You got to ask. Say, wait a minute. How is this
Pay
going
the
to
$100
benefit?
prices they're charging?
What the
And-
question you have to
and-
ask? How is this going to benefit my child?
And that's why I keep pushing that idea of an education summit. Because
that's-
parents, even those that have graduated when I graduated, that I've seen them at the elementary school PTA meetings, not Webb, but Pierce School and the other schools when the discussion was going on, they probably weren't as crazy in adopting the boys and girls school concept, you know, but there was so much apathy. The ones that did made it seem like, and then the board and everyone else amplified that and made it seem like this is the best thing that's going to happen academically. So you have that challenge there for something different in that community. So we don't know if.
But I go to this Gambino, and I've had
let
some
me
conversations
finish
about
before
that.
I finish my frame of thought, because I got lost there for a little bit, but I came back now.
That's a little
Is
bit there.
that they had work sessions where parents came that did not graduate from high school but have kids in the schools and they want to participate, but they need to be educated and be educated on what kind of questions to ask.
Right.
You shoot the language of vertical team to one of those parents that probably, like me, or probably didn't even graduate from high school and said, what?
Well, what the hell's that?
What Venetian blinds are we talking about? No, baby, we're talking about vertical team. That's totally different. You know, so those, and they get discouraged, you know,
Right.
and that one teacher.
I think they do that on purpose.
That's by
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The CAC. I remember being a member of the CAC when it first came out.
Oh,
I
okay.
was a member
Oh, my-
of Metz Elementary School, the community, the whatever, I don't know what the acronym stands for. Every meeting that I went to, it was a briefing to us of what they were going to do. And you know that today, you know, you can ask, and it's very hard to get a budget of a particular school.
Right.
Of course, they
If
don't
you
want-
go,
they don't
if
wanna
you
know that.
all call AISD and say, I want to find out what the
How much money?
budget of Zavala Elementary School to include personnel, to include all itemized budget, they won't give it to you.
Well, and I go back to what I talked about before, though. The ego comes into power and control. And
With
if
that kind of money, what do you expect?
well, it's not only the money, but I think the reality is
Yeah, I didn't mean
it's
to
also
take you off
position.
there, but-
It's position. It's I know better than you. I have all the answers. And the reality is, until we allow for the ego to be removed from educating children, until our only focus becomes the child. See, our focus right now becomes about money and power and control. And children are normally fourth or fifth on the list of things we actually start focusing on. If the words out of your mouth are not child
I'm thinking
first,
about your friend at the AISD.
No.
You got
it's
ego up
it's
and-
not just them, because I've been all over the state.
No, I'm saying he's speaking more and more Republican on
I'm-
education
I know.
now.
I've been all over the
Okay.
state with this. I've been all over the state with this. At the end of the day, if you're willing to, if you walk in the door and say, "I just want to focus on child," let's work
He
from the
sure
child
is, isn't he?
back.
Yeah.
Let's work from the child back. And then, trust me, I was downtown. I heard the conversation 2 years ago, and I told some people then. I said, "Be glad that I'm not up there right now jamming you up behind what you're complaining about the money. Because I would have gone on stage and said, well, let me ask you something. I'd have grabbed black and brown kids.
You talk about Republicans now, you get the call.
No, I'd grab black and brown kids and put them with me. I said, you're over there complaining about me not giving you another $8 million this year. But I've been governor for the last 8 years, and I've given you everything you asked for, and yet these kids are still being failed at high numbers. So what do you have for them? So you want me to give you more money, but what are you going to do about them? Because when I give you the money, and I don't care what it is, how many different programs do we fund, but yet the people who are supposed to be helped never see the outcomes in the proper fashion.
I hear you.
And see, my problem is not a Republican or Democrat thing.
I understand that. I can
It is
recognize that. That's a lot of damn money.
It is a have and have not thing, because the haves are keeping control of what's going on financially, and the people who have not are stuck in the same places, but yet they're telling us they're helping us. And it's not, because right now you got schools that are they just said the people who met the standards. I have a problem with even that. What the hell was the standard? How did you get there? Let's get real, can we? What was the standard you said they all met? And what numbers did you take? Did you take the numbers that they sent you? Did you do your own work? Or did you sit up there and get $250,000 or $400,000 as a TEA commissioner and not do any investigation as to how these people turned in these massive numbers?
All right, that's my buddy. That's my buddy.
I ain't trying to hear nobody stuff. I'm not trying to hear nobody stuff from nobody, because right now I got kids who are being failed by the system that they're stuck in. You make them come to school, and then you try to force them an education that doesn't work for them. And then and when it doesn't work, the next thing you know, you've got a prison built for them. At some point in time, we've got to say, it's too much ego involved in this process. It's too much power and control. Get that out of the game and start educating kids to the fullest potential.
And that's what is being amplified by Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst.
You want to say something, Rick Luna?
By offering.
Yes, I want to say something.
We don't got our phone number up? Hold on, I don't want Gavino to lose his train of thought.
That's exactly what the Lieutenant Governor is amplifying in regards to parental choice for education. So, but like I mentioned to him, in order for
We need the phone number up, I think, Mo.
in order for the parents to utilize that tool, they need to know. It's like I mentioned, it's like if they give me a Cadillac and I don't know how to drive. So that's where the Education Summit comes into play. We did one 10 years ago.
I like that. He liked to be at the Education Summit.
With Dr. Fox. Under Dr. Fox, AISD, he gave us a whole, whatever, he approved the summit, and he gave us all kinds of resources. He even had school buses at each elementary school to be taken to Martin. But the reason the outcome of parents for that summit didn't happen was because it wasn't an AISD project. It wasn't something that the principals in those schools put out or the PTAs, and they weren't promoting it. But we had a real good discussion, real good workshops at that time, and that's what we want to do again.
Show them pictures, Mo.
Because every discussion that I hear about education, be it at the school level or any other communities, that's the part that's lacking, especially in our community, and that's the parental involvement. Now, UT Elementary has a high parental involvement from minority parents, but the reason is, the key for them is that all the mania, the UT Longhorn, orange and white and whatnot, but for whatever reason it's working, and you have a lot of parental involvement at UT Elementary.
Gavino, though, let me just say this. I ran a program in Manor Middle School, Middle School a couple of years ago. We had a meeting on a Saturday afternoon up against a football game, and we had more than 40. And I had African American. It was at the time it was only African Americans. We were doing it as a pilot program. I had more than 40 parents there on a Saturday afternoon. Parental involvement happens when kids are involved in the education also. If kids say, "Mama, you got to come to this and you got to hear," kids will come. See, our problem is we got this thing turned around. The problem manifests itself at the child, yet we don't approach the child. We keep wanting to go everywhere else. We want to get parents involved in the process. I'm tired. I'm to the point that I'm even tired of talking about getting parents involved. You got a whole bunch of money being spent on parental involvement. You got community liaisons, parental involvement specialists, and all this community stuff.
They got all kind of titles. That guy is supposed to be
at
down
the end
here.
of the day, if you can't get the parent in the door, because they're working two jobs,
Yeah.
or they've got other issues, or they're going to court, or they got all this other stuff going on, then your parental involvement process is pushing the hill up a hill, that rock up a hill, Sisyphean-like, and it doesn't make sense. But if I can go to a child and say, you know what? You need to be interested in school, and let me tell you why. I got all this interesting stuff. The child then goes home and says, Mama, I'm doing these things. You need to come to school. Daddy, you need to see what I'm doing. That forces the parent into the process.
You have to,
the
sure.
answer is with the student, not with those kids, not with the parents.
And we're hoping that there is a mama and a papa at home.
Yes.
Well, do you think
At
that?
the age that, a lot of these kids, a lot of our children get their wings spread out, it's in the middle school, going into high school, and that has become the biggest challenge. But the curriculum is very boring.
Oh, yeah.
It's so boring that,
It's gotten a lot worse.
Yeah.
Since we were going to school.
I mean, what? And should I
But you-
care who was the father of my country?
Sure you should.
You should.
Nah, I guess when,
But
when
you
you ain't
think-
got no
If
mom and
I
daddy
tell you
at
John,
home,
if I tell you John Hanson, not George Washington, all of a sudden you get your ears perked up, won't you?
And that's supposed
And I
to
think I know the answer to that one.
give me that, and
Not many people know it.
and
Go
that's
ahead.
President
and
of
that's
Congress.
the key to a successful education.
Well,
But-
here's the thing. I think what's happened is that there's just been a transition with the way things work. When we were growing up, I know. When we were growing up, we always had to study. We had to make sure, just like you guys were saying, because we were in fear of our parents. We knew that if we were gonna do something wrong, there was gonna be hell to pay by somebody.
Yeah.
And
There you go.
as the way Gavino's doing
Yeah,
it right
yeah,
now,
belt come
that,
off,
that belt's going to be coming out.
Now
of it.
you pick one of these up, you get called
it was a-
911
it was
and
a-
child abuse, or what is it?
Well, that too, but we knew that we knew not to disappoint mom, because if we disappointed mom, then
she gonna tell daddy.
well, no, it's not even that she's going to tell dad. It's because you disappointed mom,
Yeah.
and with mom being the head of the household, regardless of what anybody says, mom being the head of the household, it was you couldn't disappoint mom. But with all the changes that went on, and I go back, and I'm going to go back to what happened in the 90s. It probably happened like late 80s, early 90s, when all this transition happened, where we started feeding more money into the system. We started having whatever elements that were going on that required the parents to turn around and say, okay, how am I going to get involved? How am I going to make sure that my kid does better? And to your point, yeah, we should have the kids be interested in saying, look, mom, dad, you need to come over here. But unfortunately, we've come now to a point where, as parents, we have to go back in there and say, okay, what are you doing for my kid? And that, to some degree, is good, but it's not always the best thing, because then you have the parental involvement, and when you have parental involvement with the upbringing and the education of the child, then it gets really scary, because they're going to be like, well, you can't do that to my kid. When before they got popped in the head, we tell them, well, you should have listened. If we got popped in the head, our parents would be like, you know what, go apologize to the teacher because you screwed up. The parents can
Now
find
they
that
wanna
out
sue the
now.
teacher.
You say that now, and all of a sudden, you call the news and say, "Oh my God!"
Teacher, be my kid.
Here's something else that can be considered, and I've asked people to do this also, if you want to use some tools. And also, education needs to use different tools, and it hasn't changed much, and it hasn't developed any tools. When I send home a release form for my program for parents, I ask them to write down on there. I want the parents to write down and have it sent back with the release form. What are your dreams and aspirations for your child? Because now I have a tool to work with, because at some point in time, I got to be able to pull it out and say, you know what, little Joey? It says here your mama thinks that you should be a doctor. She sees you achieving great things in your life, and I just want to know something. Do you love your mother? Do you want to fulfill this for your mother's dreams? So, and by the way, so that when you act a fool in classroom, I need to understand something. So when mom comes to school and wants to go off on you, I pull the paper out. I said, well, Miss Johnson, little Joey was in the classroom the other day, and he was bouncing off the walls. And when I told him about this, he said he didn't care. Actually, what he said was a little worse than that, but I'm going to clean it up for you. I need to know something, ma'am. How do we work together to get your son to achieve this dream you have for him?
Oh yeah.
That you have for him. Because he may achieve something else even greater than that for himself, because he sees the value of this. But how do we work together? Now I'm giving myself a tool. The teachers don't develop, the parents don't develop, the system doesn't develop, and therefore we leave parents out in the cold as if they're not part of the process. They have to take ownership of the child's education, and that's not part of the conversation at all. Because the system hasn't developed a tool to even do that.
Exactly.
Well, but there are certain sections of the district where it is done, but it's not done in our communities. You go to Cassis Elementary School,
Where's this at?
This is up there by West Austin, where
Next my neighborhood?
all them doctors and lawyers have their kids
Hey,
going
now
there.
you up down there in
I
Dun
bet
Springs,
you.
yeah.
I bet you one thing. There is accountability at that school. I bet you there is involvement from that
Well, they
school.
get the same kind of
Because
funding
in
as-
that school,
They
when
get
the
less.
parent walks in,
Huh?
it is
less.
known.
Actually, insane.
It is known that the parent is the boss. Whereas when they enter our schools, it's like we're here to do these folks a favor, and I'm here to teach. And good luck, you know. But I'm gonna get my monthly paycheck every month.
Yeah.
And that's the attitude. I've talked to teachers when we vote, when we work elections.
That's
We have a lot of
true.
retired people who work, and I had the opportunity to work at the Carver Museum this last time, and I worked with this young lady and retired from AISD, African American teacher, and she said, you know, Gavino, she said all the time I spent at AISD teaching in East Austin, we would receive graduate teachers right out of college come into our neighborhoods, and saying that's no way to teach a child, you know. So every year we
Well,
get
you're
new
saying you need
teachers.
experienced teachers coming in there.
Absolutely.
Why can't we
Absolutely.
go with a fresh mind to go ahead and help out?
Show that picture of Gabino and Dewhurst,
in
Mom.
all honesty, will you have
from,
someone that?
from what perspective? What do you mean?
Well, here's the way I see it. You've got some people that are going to go out there that finish up at whatever school or whatever education at a graduate
Oh,
level,
okay. But-
and then they go into an area that might be not the best place to be.
Well, the one they didn't want to work to begin with, the one they did not choose to go be assigned to work.
We're out there in Rollinwood.
Okay, so they put, I want to work over here. You end up at Sims.
And this is a question I've sent out there on Facebook today, though. How is it we have an educational system that's supposed to be about equity and equality, and yet we still talk about good and bad schools? So how is it we have schools where someone says, oh, you went to the bad area, you went to the bad school? My question would be, why is that a bad school rather than you went to the bad school? At some point in time, and I go back to what before, I don't care what kind of teacher you have in the room, because I think there are people who go into education because they want to be great teachers. And some of them are going to go in with fresh starts, just like in the Freedom Riders, who go in the door saying, I want to be the best I can be, but yet we take it away from them as soon as they walk in the door. We suck the life out of them like vampires. This educational vampire system that we kill that teacher as soon as they walk in the door by saying, well, you know, you're in this negative situation, negative atmosphere, and the kids over here don't want to learn, and the parents are always in trouble, and the parents are going to come to school and cuss you out. And therefore, the person walks in the door and is automatically have their hands up. When you walk in, like, oh, wait, you're a parent? You know, if you come to school, obviously you must be the enemy. We create an adversarial process. We don't look for ways to work together in things. We don't, and again, the parents aren't welcomed properly. You know, they're not looked on as part of the, you know, as soon as they, only time they come to school is to create the havoc.
In our schools, in our minority schools.
But why is that?
I know, but
is the question.
that's the big disparity.
Why do I have an adversarial process
should
in
not
my
have one.
neighborhood
We should not.
when I'm looking to create the best students I can? Because
Hold
remember,
on. You mean you say with us white folks don't?
well,
Out there in Westwood.
wait, I don't know where, I didn't put a color on anything. What I'm
What you're
saying
saying in
is,
your minority schools, why y'all had that problem?
I
They don't have that
teach,
problem in Westwood.
I teach in Houston and I teach in Gonzales. Hopefully I'll teach in Austin again.
Well,
But
why
when I'm
do
in
they have that
Gonzales, I got
problem there?
black, white, and brown students in there all together, and everybody is either failing
They all
together
do okay?
or yeah, in my class they do well.
And a lot of times it also is part of the community expectation, the overall
In
community.
Westwood, they expect you to do
you know,
well.
right.
And
And a
you're
lot of
saying
times
that-
we get caught into that.
And you're saying that in the other places they don't.
Right.
That the parents don't
Parents
expect
ain't
them.
home.
They won't
they're
Well,
allow-
then
all
whose fault
alone.
is that? Then
They
who-
won't
then
allow
why-
it.
But
They
why
won't
should
allow it.
that happen? Why shouldn't there be the parent saying, "Hey, I want the best for my kid. I want my kid out of the area."
I don't think there's a situation where parents are saying, I don't want the best for my kid. I think if I ask you a question to send home to the parents, a parent's never going to say, well, I just my parents, I don't give a damn what he does, as long as he gets out. I don't think that's ever the situation. I think parents do want their kids to do well. My question was, how do we get schools set up in a way that there's not an adversarial process and we raise the expectations for the system itself to look at those people as human beings, as people who can achieve great things that can be part of the process. If we continue to oppress the educational process for those kids, we don't become who we're supposed to be. And that's the issue.
That's
kinda-
why a lot of them are leaving the system and going to private and charter
Well,
schools.
here's what I
choice.
think
I like
would
that.
be a start. And this is something that I learned when my daughter started going to school in El Paso. when you had those meetings with the principals of the schools, they went in there. You know, at the beginning of the school year, they said, okay, we're going to be meeting with everybody. If you guys want to come in, you're more than welcome to. The letters were sent out, and they had like donuts or coffee with the principal. And the principal
Where'd
would
you
come
go?
in and talk to the parents who were either English speaking or Spanish speaking, and spoke to them in whatever language that they needed to speak to them, and told them, you're responsible for these kids as well. We're going to help them out. We're going to give them whatever tools they need to go ahead and succeed. But once they're out of here and they go to your hands, you got to continue that process. And in fact, I'll never forget what one of the principals said at where my daughter was going to.
We got 3 minutes, so.
Okay, and I'll make it real quick. He told all the Spanish-speaking parents, he says, I don't want to hear that you're watching novelas. You got to watch SpongeBob. He says anything that has English in there, put it in there. I don't care what you're going to do. Get another TV, do whatever you have to do. But one of the TVs has to have English speaking only. That way you learn, and that way your kids learn. And if you ask them what's going on, they can tell you what's happening. And that's how it came out, where they try to incorporate the parents to become a little bit more involved. But they started at an early age. And then the parents, of course, the parents were like, okay, yeah, we're going to do that. Now, whether they did or not, who knows? Did they measure it after that? Did they go back? Did the principal go back? We don't know.
It's also, do we measure what's working and what's not working?
Oh, of course
Do
not.
we ask the questions of all these programs and consultants and all these other people who bring in this? Do we go back and ask, is that money well spent?
It's like if you don't said it, just business.
Well,
That's my comment.
we-
This is a
my
lot
choice.
of
It's my
money we're
children.
talking
I don't
about.
care.
We do count it. We do use statistics, but when it comes to the jails and the
Well, no,
penitentiaries,
you use
they
statistics,
have
but-
all that data on our people.
Well, we have all the
You
data
know.
here also, but the problem is that they don't measure.
What about my people?
They
They
don't
got it on
measure
my
the
people too, huh? Oh, my
They don't,
people ain't
they don't
there?
measure the elements that they're trying to use to go ahead and say, okay, was this successful? For example,
show
when
me
they
that,
tell the
Mo?
parents, you need to watch SpongeBob. They don't go back a week later or
And
2
ask
weeks
them,
later and
what?
say, hey, did you watch
Did you watch
SpongeBob?
SpongeBob? Right.
Okay,
What was
but-
on last week? Tell me the funniest cartoon you ever saw.
Right.
See, there's this conspiracy, in my opinion, in the AISD to make sure our kids don't learn. What school district
Hey,
today would shut down a middle school and put a middle school? Of all places in our community that needs
That
it,
is an
and that,
important
they
grade,
closed
yeah.
Allen Elementary School. Where's our minority school board members? We're a majority up there.
That they were all.
So
Yeah.
we can't say it's your folks now.
Yeah,
you know.
and Joe Blake White Man now.
So, when the school board allows that to happen in the community, it doesn't help any in the motivation and involvement like what you're
Then
talking
you go
about.
back.
that
Then
is
you have to
needed.
go back to the community and say, okay, what are you doing to fix it? If it's happening, if the bad stuff is happening in your community, what are you doing to fix it? How are you what problems do you know are occurring, and then what are you doing to go ahead and rectify it? Is it something that has to be done locally, or does it have to be something done at the very top, kind of like
It's
what you were
something
saying
that has to
before?
be done
It's
at the
gotta-
election box.
Then they have to do something about it. They have
30
to stand
seconds.
up. They have to say, okay, we're tired of this, and we're going to be acting upon it and getting rid of whoever we have to get rid of.
Well,
Okay.
in Del Valley, they just extended the terms 18 months, so I don't know what
my
to do about
God.
that one.
Okay, Wednesday at the Millennium at 6:30.
Yeah.
The 10-1 redistricting committee is going to be out in the community. If you get an opportunity, go out there, be part of the historical process that's happening here in Austin, Texas. We're now going to go into single-member districts for our city
And
council.
Get involved.
Five
So get
seconds.
involved and go out there. They want your input.
Oh,
We'll
4
see y'all
seconds.
next week. Hopefully we'll get AISD here.
10-4. Bye-bye.
Adios.
There we go. I don't know where we go.